I never expected to be humiliated by my daughter-in-law over a simple strawberry at dinner. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The air was thick with tension, the kind that wraps around your chest and refuses to let go. It was supposed to be a normal family gathering, a time to laugh and share stories. But instead, as I sat at the table, my heart raced and my palms grew sweaty. Maggie had brought her famous strawberry salad. I could still smell the fresh sweetness, tempting and vibrant, as I reached for it. And then it happened, a simple mistake. I accidentally dropped a single, crimson strawberry onto my lap. In that horrifying moment, the world went silent. I froze, my hand trembling over the ruby-red fruit. I looked up at them, my husband, my children, the whole family. That's when I noticed Maggie. Her eyes were fixated on me, a mischievous smile playing at the corners of her mouth. My stomach dropped. That smile, something about it felt sharp, like glass. "Well, look at you," she exclaimed, her voice dripping with mockery. The laughter from the others bubbled up, too loud, too bright. I averted my gaze, feeling the heat rush to my cheeks. The strawberry mocked me, a bright spot of shame on my black dress. Did they see the anguish brewing beneath my surface? Could they sense my mortification as I tried to laugh it off, my heart now pounding in my ears? It wasn't just the embarrassment of the moment, it was the way Maggie always seemed to find a way to make me feel small. I thought of my daughter, sitting quietly at the end of the table, her eyes darting between me and her father. What was she thinking? Maggie had stepped into our family, and turned our cozy dinners into battlegrounds. Every interaction felt like a test, every meal, a chance for her to claim superiority. But why? Did she feel threatened by me? By my years of family memories? In that instant, as laughter echoed around the table, I decided enough was enough. I felt the lump in my throat, the urge to scream. The silence in the room felt heavy as I reached for the strawberry, my fingers curling around it tightly. Could I confront her? Should I let myself be humiliated like this forever? As I weighed my options, a strange glimmer of defiance sparked inside me. I stood up, heart racing, eyes narrowing, ready to change the narrative of the evening. But then, unexpectedly, a loud crash resounded from the kitchen. The sound shattered the moment, freezing the laughter, turning heads in confusion. My heart dropped. What just happened? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The sound of shattering glass echoed through the dining room, drowning out the raucous laughter that had filled the air just moments before. My heart skipped, a wild rhythm thrumming in my chest. Was it a plate? Maybe a cherished heirloom? Whatever it was, it had intensified the already thick tension, transforming our already strained dinner into a full-blown crisis. As heads turned and anxiety rippled through the room, I felt the weight of the entire table's silent gaze settle back onto me, as if I was the cause of the chaos. Maggie? My husband called, his voice tight with worry. I could see her face twitch in annoyance as she rolled her eyes, but something behind that annoyance slithered into focus, a flicker of vulnerability. It was gone just as quickly as it appeared, replaced by indignation as she pushed back her chair and hurried towards the kitchen, remained frozen in my seat, sensing the oppressive atmosphere pressing down like a heavy blanket. My daughter's eyes, wide with concern, met mine across the table. She smiled weakly, offering a bit of warmth amid the chilling exchange. "I can help," she said, and despite the chaos, I felt a surge of gratefulness toward her kind-heartedness. But before I could rise, before I could follow her to the kitchen, my husband stood, a protective instinct in his stride as he rushed to Maggie's side. With him gone, I felt exposed, like the lone strawberry caught in the stark light of scrutiny. Their voices mingled, a hushed argument cloaked behind the kitchen door, but I could hear the sharpness of Maggie's tones slicing through the air. I sighed, reclaiming my breath as I tucked my fingers around the ruby orb lying on my lap, wishing it could absorb my anxiety like a sponge. I wanted to retreat, yet within me grew the desperate tremors of irritation. Why did it have to escalate like this? Why did she always make me feel this way? The laughter had died, but a small part of me wondered if this accidental chaos could be my chance, a sudden rupture in her facade of superiority. Maybe, just maybe, the chaos in the kitchen was the unanticipated opportunity one hadn't known I needed. As if sensing my turmoil, my daughter, Bella, moved back to where I was sitting, her hands worryingly clasped together. "Mom, can we talk?" she whispered urgently, pulling me away from my thoughts. I nodded, grateful for the reprieve from the lingering stares around the table. Bella's face was taut with concern as we slipped into the hallway, the sounds of the kitchen now muted behind us. "You can't let her get to you," she said fiercely, a protective gleam shining in her eyes. "You know her and you know how she gets." "I know," I exhaled, watching her earnest expression. "But it's hard. It's like she knows precisely how to push my buttons." "That's only because you let her," she replied softly. "You're my mom, and I admire you. You're so much stronger than she realizes." Her words swelled in my chest, but they felt like fragile paper flowers creasing under pressure. "What if I lose it?" I whispered, half terrified of what would slip from my lips should I finally voice my long-buried frustration. "What if I really confront her?" "Then be careful," Bella said, her tone dropping to a serene certainty. "You have to speak your truth, Mom, even if it's scary." Suddenly, the crash of a dish echoing followed by a sharp intake of breath from the kitchen, drew us both back to the present. My heart began to race again. What was that? The door swung open, revealing Maggie stood in the doorway, her hands trembling and eyes surprisingly wide. She stammered, a rare crack in her confident armor. "I messed up. I spilled the punch everywhere. I didn't mean to." As her voice dripped with an uncharacteristic remorse, the moment hung in the air, heavy with confusion. A strange new wave of emotion washed over me. Was she genuinely apologizing? Bella's hand squeezed mine, a small, reassuring gesture, urging me to respond. But before I could formulate my words, Maggie's gaze flickered to mine, and I thought I detected something deeper, something buried beneath her usual theatrics fear. In that instant, I had a harsh revelation. Maybe, just maybe, Maggie was as broken and lost as I felt. "We all mess up sometimes," I said cautiously, feeling the air shift, the tension bridging with a reluctant understanding. "It's okay, we can." But before I could finish, the front door swung open violently, and my son stumbled in, panting, eyes wide with panic. "Mom! You need to see this." Something in his voice fractured the moment, the family bubble that had formed just moments before bursting again, unleashing a new kind of urgency. "See what?" I asked, dread curling in my stomach as I caught his expression. Something dark, something dangerous looming in the shadows. And then I knew life was about to test me in ways I hadn't prepared for. The kitchen was still buzzing with the remnants of tension when my son, Noah, burst through the door. The room fell completely silent, as though someone had flipped a switch, and I felt all eyes divert back to him, pregnant with anticipation. Noah's chest heaved, the urgency in his posture translating into an invisible thread tight enough to snap. "What's going on?" I asked, moving toward him instinctively. He was my son, the anchor in our family's stormy sea, and his distress sent ripples of concern through me. I don't know how to say this." He looked around the room, searching for someone else's gaze to stabilize his own, and that familiar sense of dread cloaked me like a shroud. "Just tell us," I prompted, my heart racing as I took a step closer, feeling helpless as the moments stretched thin. "I saw her. I saw her with someone else. It was at the park," he blurted out, his face a mask of confusion and hurt. For a moment, the shock paralyzed me, the fragility of the situation mingling with an unexpected wave of anger. Who? I managed, my voice barely a whisper, as disbelief coursed through me. Maggie, he said, and just like that, the ground beneath me seemed to shift. A flurry of whispering erupted around the table, but I couldn't focus, the room spun, the walls closing in as I processed his words. Maggie. My sister-in-law, whose presence had already ignited chaos, was now entangled in a web of betrayal. What do you mean? With whom? I finally found my voice, the urgency in my own heart matching the tension suspended in the air. I don't know. Just someone. It felt wrong, Mom, he admitted, visibly shaken. I wasn't supposed to see them, but it looked more than just friends. The humid atmosphere felt electric, heavy with unspoken thoughts swirling in the aftermath of his revelation. My instincts clawed away at me like wild creatures. Should I confront Maggie? Should I protect my family from the impending fallout? Maggie would never, I heard myself say, though even I could feel the wavering of confidence in my declaration. Mom, I swear. She was holding his hand. It didn't look like a friendly stroll, he insisted, his eyes pleading for me to understand, to trust him. I wanted to say something then. I wanted to. I didn't know how to react. But you need to hear this. It's not fair to just brush it away. At that moment, the transmogrifying nature of family secrets felt so close and sharp, like a knife's edge just out of sight. I longed to protect Maggie, to rush to her side and dismiss Noah's claims. But what if he was right? What if I had been wearing blinders all these years, and the truth had maneuvered right by me? Maggie! I shouted, sending the words slicing through the air as tension tightened like a bowstring in the room. She appeared in the kitchen doorway again, eyes wide like a deer caught in headlights, her earlier bravado shattered. What? She snapped sharply, but her voice trembled under layers of confusion. Noah stepped forward, a brave boy confronting a dragon. Mom saw what you did. Why were you with someone else at the park? A brief flicker of surprise swept over her face before the annoyance transformed into something darker, a fierce indignation sparking behind her eyes. That's none of your business. I think it is, he countered, the resolve in his voice unyielding, and I felt torn between wanting to defend him and the urge to protect her. Enough! I yelled, my voice cracking under the weight of conflicting emotions. Maggie, is it true? Were you with someone? Her lips pressed into a thin line, the flash of fear and then defiance flaring in her expression. You don't understand, then make me understand. I demanded, desperation coating my voice, tinged with heartache. Suddenly, Bella's voice interjected, her eyes locked onto Maggie's, unwavering. It's not just about you anymore, Maggie. Family isn't about keeping secrets. It's about being honest. Tears rushed to my eyes. My daughter, who had faced her own trials this evening, was forcing us to confront a deeper truth we had all been dancing around. I felt raw and exposed. Standing on an emotional precipice, teetering about to fall into the abyss of our shared pain. I don't owe you an explanation, Maggie finally spat, her composure cracking like fragile ice. You don't know anything about my life, or what it's like to be in this family. The words ignited something deep within me, an unfamiliar anger swells. You may think you can walk away, but this isn't just about you. You've made it everyone's business by your actions. The air trembled with unspoken words and buried memories, and as I thought of how we had all worked to keep this family together, a sense of impending betrayal darkened my thoughts. Maggie, I whispered, feeling a sudden pang of compassion. If you're in trouble, you can talk to me. But you need to tell the truth first. We'll work through this if you just let us in. For the briefest second, her facade fractured further, and the ghost of vulnerability flitted across her face. But like boiling water on ice, it shattered just as quickly, and she turned, fleeing back into the kitchen, her footsteps echoing louder than my heart beating against my ribs. Wait. Don't go. I called, desperation clawing at my throat, but she was already gone, the door swinging shut as tension seeped back, thickening with uncertainty. I gripped the table, feeling the shudder in my bones. Life was carving new paths through our relationships, tossing aside any comfort or stability. No longer did I know Maggie as I thought I did. She could perhaps unravel us all. What do we do now? Bella asked softly, her eyes brimming with heartache. But I faced an uncertain horizon that stretched ahead, a cyclone of emotions swirling relentlessly. The cliff drop of family secrets loomed much larger than before, and I didn't know if our fragile bonds could withstand the tumultuous wave that was about to crash over us all. The days slipped by like grains of sand, and the silence in our home grew oppressive, heavy with the weight of unsaid words. Each morning seemed to greet me with a sense of dread, and every meal was tainted by a tight-lipped discomfort that had settled into our routine like an unwelcome guest. Evenings were particularly sharp, enveloped in a palpable tension that made it harder to breathe. Noah busied himself with his studies, retreating into his room more often, and Bella's laughter was noticeably absent, dimmed by the emotional fallout that had rippled through our lives. What once felt like a sanctuary had transformed into a battleground of unspoken accusations and stifled anger. I often caught myself glancing toward the kitchen door, half expecting Maggie to walk in with her usual cheer, a brightness that had become a distant memory on a particularly quiet morning. As I sat at the table, swirling my coffee around in my cup, I caught a glimpse of my reflection. I looked older, wearier, shadows under my eyes like smudged ink, each line on my face telling a story of worry. I was the matriarch of a family in crisis, yet I felt utterly powerless to bridge the widening chasm that lay within it. Just as I was lost in my thoughts, the doorbell chimed. My heart quickened, hoping against hope that it was Maggie, perhaps coming to mend what remained of our frayed ties. A glimmer of hope nestled within my chest. When I opened the door, the familiar figure of my dear neighbor, Mrs. Hargrove, greeted me. She was sweet and compassionate, but I did not have the emotional energy required for small talk, yet the kindness in her eyes beckoned me to invite her in. Good morning, dear. I brought you some fresh strawberries from my garden. I thought you might enjoy a taste of summer, she said, a warm smile illuminating her weathered face. Thank you, Mrs. Hargrove, I replied, accepting the small basket of plump, red berries, but instead of joy, their vibrant color brought a rush of bittersweet memories: summer picnics, laughter, and Maggie. You're always so thoughtful. Oh, yes. And how are the kids? She asked, her eyes sparkling with genuine interest. I hesitated, struggling to find the right words, but the melancholy of my circumstances weighed on me like a heavy blanket. They're managing, I finally said, feeling the familiar lump of emotions welling up in my throat. Here, she said, reaching for a strawberry, why don't we share these? They're best when you're not alone. As I watched her devour the fruit with delight, something inside me cracked. There was a sweetness, a comfort to be found in mere strangers, and in that moment, her simplicity calmed the turmoil that swirled like a hurricane within me. I joined her, biting into one of the strawberries, the juice spilling into my mouth, a burst of flavor that distracted me, albeit briefly, from the chaos of my life. Sometimes, you just need a little sweetness, Mrs. Hargrove continued, her eyes twinkling. Trust me, it makes every bitter moment just a little easier to swallow. I laughed quietly, grateful for her kindness, although I couldn't shake the bitterness creeping in. The taste of strawberry clashed with the harsh realities surrounding my family. You know, you're right. It just feels complicated right now. Complicated? Sweetheart, life is always complicated. But sometimes, sharing a moment with someone can help ease the heaviness. You never know what you'll find when you open the door, she said thoughtfully, looking me right in the eyes. With those words echoing in my mind, I realized I had to confront the complexities lying just beyond our front door: Maggie, the hurt, the distance. Closing my eyes, I collected the courage that had evaded me for days. As I finished the strawberries, vowing to bridge the gap, I was startled by the sound of Noah's raised voice, breaking through my contemplation. No, Mom, it's not fair to ask that of me. I rushed to the living area, where Noah stood face to face with Bella, their faces flushed with emotion. My heart sank, the rift only seemingly widening. What's happening? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Noah glared, frustration etched on his features. You both keep talking about family, but it's hard to pretend everything's fine. I can't just ignore what I saw with Maggie. Neither can I, Noah, Bella shot back, her voice trembling. But we have to deal with it like a family. Shouting about it isn't going to fix anything. Then what do you want me to do? Just forget it ever happened? Noah's voice cracked, revealing his distress. Mom, please. Can't you see that if we confront her, if we call her out, it might ruin her? Bella interjected, her eyes shining with tears. What if she didn't mean it like that? The room buzzed with tension, my emotions drawing in all directions, but then Noah shook his head, his expression hardening. I wish I had never told you. You never listen. You're all turning a blind eye as if nothing is wrong. Noah, I said softly, feeling the churn in my stomach. It felt like everything was spiraling out of control, and I desperately needed to ground myself in some certainty. I can't do this right now, he muttered, retreating towards the hallway. Please, wait. I called, panic rising within me. But like Maggie, he was gone before I could grasp him, and the silence that followed screamed louder than words ever could. My heart raced as an unsettling thought crept into my mind. How much longer could we endure this facade? I breathed heavily, caught in the undertow of despair and defiance, and as the tension thickened around us, I sensed once more that we were standing on the precipice of something far greater than a broken family secret. Just then, my phone buzzed violently on the kitchen counter, jolting me from my thoughts. I rushed to grab it, the screen lighting up with Maggie's name. My chest tightened as I saw the message, "We need to talk. It's important." Regret swallowed every glimmer of hope. Would my own sister-in-law manage to shatter the remnants of our family further, or would it be something unforeseen, an unraveling even darker than I'd ever anticipated? As the weight of her request settled over me, a shiver of dread broke through my thoughts. The worst could still be waiting, lurking just below the surface, and I refused to brace myself for impact. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that danced through the living room. I sat at the dining table, the uneaten strawberries in front of me now a vivid reminder of the sweetness that felt forever out of reach. My phone lay heavy in my palm, the brightness of the screen a painful jolt, and dread congealed within me like an uninvited guest. Why had I thought that inviting Maggie back into our lives would resolve anything? The thought of facing her again made my stomach twist. Yet, in my heart, I knew I owed it to our family to at least hear her out. The silent churning of our household demanded answers, and it felt as if Maggie might hold a key to healing or destruction. As I sat there lost in thought, Bella wandered back into the room, her face a mixture of sadness and frustration. She walked over to the table and surveyed the untouched strawberries, her brow furrowing slightly. "Did Mrs. Hargrove bring you those?" she asked carefully, as if the fruit were an unfamiliar artifact. "Yes," I murmured, avoiding her gaze. "She thought they might brighten my day." "Did they?" Bella pressed, tilting her head in that way that made her seem far younger than her 16 years, considered it, the bittersweet flood of memories now intertwined with my current burdens. "A little," I admitted quietly, drawing my finger along the rim of the basket. "But it only served to remind me how much has changed. I wish things could go back to the way they used to be." She sighed heavily, her shoulders slumping. "Do you really think Maggie can fix anything?" The question hung in the air, loaded with both hope and repressed resentment. "I don't know," I replied. "But silence hasn't helped." Bella nodded but didn't respond. Instead, she turned away, her thoughts drifting toward somewhere unreachable. I could sense that she was holding something back, struggling beneath the weight of our unspoken truths. "Bella," I called gently, "if you're upset about Noah, I'm not upset about Noah," she cut in, her voice rising defensively. "I'm upset about all of you. We're falling apart, Mom. And I feel like I'm the only one who sees it." Her outburst pierced my heart, the wounds of our family laid bare. I see it too, I whispered, my voice low. I feel it in everything. We need to talk about it. As she crossed her arms, I noticed an ember of anger extinguish within her posture, replaced with an understanding that hinted at a longing for resolution. For a fleeting moment, I thought we might be on the verge of repairing the distance that had settled between us. Yet just as quickly, her expression hardened again, and she retreated into silence. Let's set a time to sit down together, I suggested, desperation creeping into my tone. Noah, you, and me. We can talk this through. Bella's brow tightened, and a flicker of hope danced in her eyes before she extinguished it with a roll of her own. What's the point? He's just going to storm off again. We can't keep pretending that everything's okay when it's clearly not. Her accusation hit me with the force of a tidal wave. How could I have thought that gathering us around the table would magically ease the aching distance? As her words echoed through the room, the burden of raising 2 children in turmoil compressed the air around me. I just don't want to lose you both, I admitted, the vulnerability in my voice knocking the breath from me. I need us to try to be a family again. Bella looked at me, vulnerability flickering in her gaze. Trying isn't enough, Mom. We need to be honest about everything. Just then, the door swung open, and Noah re-entered, the defiance that had etched his features ebbing into uncertainty. The air shifted, perhaps sensing the tension between us, and I braced for another round of heated exchanges. Can we just stop pretending for a second? Noah said quietly, his anger seemingly drained. I just want to know what we're even fighting about anymore. What did Maggie ever do that shattered everything? His question pierced through layers of pain I hadn't dared to explore. I looked between the two of them, their faces longing for clarity. Suddenly, I felt the gravity of the moment pull us together, as if we were standing at the edge of a cliff, staring into the unknown. Just as I opened my mouth to speak, intending to confess the truth that lay heavily on my heart, my phone buzzed again. The screen illuminated with another message from Maggie, I'm outside. Please let me in. I'm ready to tell you everything. A cold wave of apprehension washed over me. There was no turning back now. I had wanted answers, but what if the truths Maggie brought were deeper, darker than I had ever anticipated? The gulf between my children and me, the delicate fragments of our family, felt on the brink of shattering completely. Before I had the chance to respond, a laugh echoed from the hallway, a sound that should have been joyous, but to me felt like nails on a chalkboard. It was Bella, her laugh mingling with something reminiscent of Maggie's own, sudden and shocking, filling the space with discomfort. Is that really all it takes? Bella whispered, her eyes widening, as if we had conjured a spectral force. A simple strawberry to make everything feel lighter? The disquiet lingered in the air, an acknowledgement of the unresolved threads binding us. As my heart raced in tandem with the chaos brewing inside me, I found myself teetering between hope and dread, between healing and heartbreak. The widening gap between us felt insurmountable, and yet, somehow, I had to make a choice. In that charged moment, I understood what needed to happen next. What conversation could reshape our lives, but the consequences could fracture our fragile bond beyond repair. The doorbell chimed once more, eerily echoing in the tight silence, and I froze. In that instant, it became clear. I had to summon every ounce of courage still left in me to navigate the storm ahead, realizing it might very well lead to revelations I wasn't prepared to face. As the door creaked open and shadows danced on the threshold, the path forward promised to be anything but easy, and my heart sank with the fear of what awaited just beyond. The door swung open, revealing Maggie. Her presence filled the room like a summer storm, unpredictably fierce yet strangely refreshing. I had expected anything from her: anger, apologies, or even silence, but the uncertainty swirling in my gut betrayed the gravity of her arrival. Can we talk? She asked, her voice barely breaking through the thick air. The moment felt surreal, as if time had paused at the edge of a precipice, each second stretching as thin as the tension between us. Couldn't look at Bella or Noah. I could only focus on Maggie, who stood framed by the door's light, both vibrant and vulnerable. She was a reflection of the past I had struggled to reconcile, a past that seemed far removed from the uneasy presence of my children. Mom? Noah's voice broke through the haze, his worry palpable. What do we do? I struggled to find the words, my throat constricting around more than just the weight of the moment. Words died at the threshold of my lips, unable to navigate the chasm of hurt that had formed between us. Maggie took a cautious step inside, slipping past the threshold with the same uncertainty I felt. She looked around, her gaze landing on the uneaten strawberries sprawled across the table, a momentary smile ghosting her features. It was a haunting reminder of a simpler time when joy had been more than a fleeting memory. I didn't mean to interrupt, she began, her voice trembling. But I came here to apologize. For everything. Those words hung suspended in the air, a bittersweet promise of closure or devastation. Bella shifted her weight, her anxiety palpable. That doesn't really cover it, Maggie. I felt a pang in my chest, torn between wanting to protect my children and the longing for resolution that Maggie's presence stirred in me. The years of resentment bubbled beneath the surface, threatening to erupt. What do you want from us? I managed to croak out, my voice steadier than I felt. I want to explain. I want you to understand what happened. Things were never as simple as a choice between us, she replied, her eyes brimming with vulnerability, the old hurt mixing with something deeper, yet unnameable, the air cracked with tension. I could feel the walls closing in the place where we had laughed, fought, and loved. It had become a battleground of unresolved feelings. In that moment, Noah stepped forward, breaking the invisible dam of silence. If you're here to justify everything, I'm not. She exclaimed, cutting him off. I'm here to be honest. To admit that I messed up, and I miss you all. Bella crossed her arms defensively. You can't just come back and expect everything to be okay. It's not that simple. Fine. It's not simple, Maggie snapped, her exasperation rising. But if you want me to pretend that I haven't spent the last 2 years regretting everything, that's not fair either. The energy shifted again, anger turned to desperation in Maggie's voice, and I could sense her earth-shattering vulnerability drawing us closer, like gravity pulling together 2 distant planets. But what would we find if we ventured into that unstable orbit? Each heartbeat that thudded in my chest felt like a countdown to an inevitable choice. I gestured toward the dining table, inviting her into our shared space of both warmth and disappointment. Let us sit. We need to talk. If you really mean that, if you want to fix this, then let us uncover the truth together. The 3 of us settled down, the tension pulsating between us like a tightrope strung across an abyss. I glanced at Bella, whose eyes flitted between me and Maggie, uncertainty written all over her face. Noah's tangible anger seemed to soften just a little, curiosity mingling with his hurt. As the atmosphere thickened, it felt as if we were peeling back layers of sorrow and silence, reforming the connections that binds us. The first thread was taut, vibrating with unspoken fears, each revelation promising to ignite a new spark or fracture us farther apart. Maggie cleared her throat, a raw edge to her vulnerability. When you asked me why I left, I never really told you the truth. I was scared, yes, but there was something else. A decision I made that I never thought I'd have to live with. I felt every fiber of my being turned toward her words. There, against the backdrop of our tensions, a sliver of hope ignited a chance to unravel this deep-seated confusion. Just tell us, Noah urged, his voice softening. Whatever it is, we deserve to know. Maggie inhaled shakily. I got a call a few days before everything happened. They found pieces of a family secret. Something that involved all of us. I thought it would ruin everything, and I panicked. The room fell into silence, the secrets lying heavily upon our hearts. As her words sank in, I felt my pulse race. What could possibly be so monumental that it could shatter our lives even further? Pieces? What do you mean? Bella's voice wavered, the fear surfacing as she pushed against her own trepidation. Maggie took a breath, but a tremor traveled through her frame. I can't be sure, I just know that it has the power to change everything, possibly even how we see each other. The air crackled with impending dread, each moment fragile and weighty. The suggestions of Maggie's revelations felt like chunks of ice breaking from the glacial past, ready to plunge deep into unknown waters. I sat motionless as every instinct within me urged to retreat. What had she unearthed? And, more importantly, was this the opening of a door toward understanding, or a fracture that might split our fragile family beyond repair? Just as I opened my mouth to press her further, the unmistakable sound of Bella's phone chiming filled the silence, an intrusion, unexpected and menacing. She brought the device to her eyes, her brow furrowing apprehensively. Our family stood on the edge of revelation, trembling against the brink of secrets untold, as the path before us twisted into a bewildering maze. Yet it was the message flashing across Bella's screen that pierced through my heart the most, a chilling reminder that some truths could topple even the strongest of walls. "Mom," Bella whispered, her voice barely above a tremor. "It's Noah. He's in trouble." My heart plummeted, a crashing wave of fear surging through me. As I locked eyes with Maggie, the question hung heavily in the air: what had we unearthed, and was this the beginning of a new chapter or the end of everything? The room shifted as if a jolt of electricity had been unleashed. My heart raced and every thought shattered under the weight of Bella's proclamation. "What do you mean, he's in trouble?" I asked, panic etching deep lines across my brow. "Mom, he just texted that something's gone wrong with the project at school. There's been an incident, people are talking about suspensions and it." Bella's voice broke, and the sheer anxiety painted across her features twisted something inside me. Maggie, too, paled instantly. "What kind of trouble?" Her maternal instinct surged to the forefront, and the earlier tensions morphed into a shared urgency that bound us for the moment. Before Bella could respond, I felt the weight of her silence. An answer loomed just beyond reach, its implications weaving a thread of dread through the air between us. The name of Noah's project echoed in my mind, something art-related he had poured himself into, a depiction of family, shaped from the fragments of memories we had all but buried. Bella looked at me helplessly, the phone slipping from her fingers slightly as if its weight became too much to bear. Didn't he go into details? Just said he needed help, that it was important." A lump formed in my throat, urgency thrumming like a butterfly's wings within me. "Then we need to go to him. Now." I stood abruptly, the chairs scraping against the floor as Maggie and Bella mirrored my rise. My heart raced as we moved toward the door, a singular notion filling my thoughts: Noah needed us. After all that had happened, there he was, our son, waiting for us to make sense of his chaos. Moments later, we were in the car, the tension from before strangely transformed into a frantic energy. I stole glances at the rearview mirror where I caught snippets of Maggie and Bella, their faces drawn tight with worry, and for a moment, I felt the shared fear swirl around us, creating a makeshift bond, one forged not in happiness, but survival. As we drove, the streets blurred past us, yet the weight of our earlier conversation weighed heavily on my mind. What had Maggie uncovered? What could possibly lurk within those pieces she had mentioned, and how could it intertwine with Noah's urgent need for us now? "Do you think it has anything to do with?" I started but stopped short, unwilling to dive back into those uncertain waters just yet. Bella shook her head vehemently, her hands clenched into tight fists. "I don't know. I don't want anything else to go wrong," she cried, her voice breaking under the pressure. The vulnerability in her admission struck a chord within me. As we arrived at the school, there was a quiver of unease that wormed through my stomach. I'd always believed Noah was strong, capable. Seeing him in trouble, particularly for something I could only guess would be tied to the delicate balance of our family, was like standing on the precipice of a sheer cliff, each uncertain spell threatening to pull me under. The hallway was bustling, students milling about, all blissfully unaware of the fragile threads we had begun to unravel only moments ago. We found Noah outside the art studio, his head bowed in despair, surrounded by a small group of students, their faces twisted in confusion and concern. "Noah!" I called out, pushing through the throng, my voice smooth with a fierce urgency that could barely mask my fear. He looked up, his expression morphing instantaneously from surprise to relief. "Mom," he whispered, the intensity in his eyes tearing at me. "I didn't know if you'd come." "Of course, I would," I responded, crossing the short distance between us. I reached out, cupping his cheek with trembling fingers as I took in the anxiety etched on his brow. "What happened?" He glanced sideways at the group around him, hesitation punctuating his silence. The other students hung back, an air of expectation hanging heavy between us. "It was a total accident," he managed to say, but the words fell short. I wanted it to be perfect." "Whatever it is, we'll figure it out together," I assured him, trying to bridge the chasm of doubt that seemed to widen with every pulse of silence. Bella stepped closer, reaching out toward her brother, her presence providing a sliver of comfort, but before Noah could explain further, a broad-shouldered teacher appeared at the door, his expression stern. "Noah, can you come in here for a moment?" The drop out of his shoulders spoke volumes of the universe's disdain for timing. I felt my heart plunge as Noah exchanged a quick glance with me, his uncertainty cleared as he took a step toward the teacher. Maggie suddenly intervened, stepping forward with an unexpected courage. "Can we please talk about this as a family?" The teacher bristled momentarily, but Maggie's authority calmed him as he regarded us cautiously. The silence stretched between us, and a quiet determination filled the air, thick with the demand for answers amid our upheaval. "Fine," the teacher said finally, gesturing for us to follow. "But let's not take long." As we stepped into the art studio, a world painted in colors of creativity and shadow unfolded before us. Only now it felt more like a battleground. Noah's project lay in its chaotic aftermath, parts of it demolished and a tapestry of unfulfilled dreams scattered like crumpled paper. I felt the tension rising once more, the unresolved edges of our lives curling up around us as if we had unwittingly stumbled into a storm still brewing. The vivid colors of the art around us bled into our reality, the weight of Maggie's earlier words lingering, reminding me that our secrets were no longer confined to the past, but thrumming against the walls of the present. Somewhere, deep within me, I sensed that this upheaval wasn't merely a separate incident from our growing uncertainties. It felt deeply intertwined, whispering the potential for both ruin and reclamation. Just as I gathered my thoughts to press Noah for answers, his phone buzzed again, a familiar sound piercing through the tension. I watched as his face drained of color, the anxiety racing like wildfire across his features. "Wait," he murmured, his eyes wide. It's from someone I thought I'd never hear from again." The enormity of his revelation hung in the air like a dark thundercloud, and my heart thumped louder within my chest. Just when we thought we were grappling with one crisis, another unforeseen storm threatened to break open, unleashing torrents of truth, anger, and incredulity all at once. Our family was on the edge, ripping apart yet somehow drawing closer, and just as I was about to grasp the edges of what Noah had revealed, the shadows of our fractured past danced ominously within the corners of the room. Standing together, we could almost taste the potential for unity or devastation that lay ahead. And just then, amid the tension, I felt the chilling grip of fear. For who would step forward next, and more importantly, what would we do when the storm finally broke? The room hummed with a quiet tension, every breath heavy with unspoken fears as Noah held his phone, his fingers trembling against the glass. "Who?" I managed to ask, my voice barely above a whisper, the air thick with dread. He didn't answer immediately, but the flicker of recognition in his eyes told me everything I needed to know. It was a name that haunted our family, one associated with the fractured dynamics we had tried so desperately to leave behind. The name slipped from his lips, almost as if it were a betrayal. "Dad." The revelation landed like a shattering glass, and I felt my heart plummet. How could someone so effortlessly tethered to the past suddenly resurface? The notion hung in the air, heavy and foreboding. "What does he want?" I pressed, desperation creeping into my tone as I sought to shield Noah from the chaos I knew would follow. I glanced at Bella and Maggie, their faces reflecting the same shock that coursed through me. "He just texted," Noah replied, his voice barely audible as it trembled. "He says he wants to talk." Says he needs to see me. His words trailed off, the silence that followed wearing down the already fragile walls of our resolve. Before I could respond, I caught Maggie's gaze, her brow furrowed with concern that only deepened my own. It seemed the universe was intent on unraveling not just Noah's project, but the very fabric of our family. What would he even want? Bella interjected, her voice slicing through the silence like a knife. Does he think he can just waltz back into your life after all this time? I don't know, Noah said, his shoulders tense, the uncertainty settling heavily upon him. But I can't just ignore it. It might be important. Important how? I challenged, the frustration rising within me. After everything he put you through? You can't trust him. You shouldn't want anything to do with him. My heart raced, panic flooding me as long-buried memories churned in my mind. The pain of Noah's childhood, marked by absence, his father's callousness, the endless disappointments surged to the surface like a tidal wave. Noah's face twisted in anguish. But he's still my dad. The words rang out, raw and pained, echoing in the cavernous art studio, the vivid colors now dulled by the distress that surrounded us. We can't let him back in. He'll ruin everything again. I blurted, the urgency pushing me forward, as if I could shield Noah from a past that still felt sharp despite the years. I realized with a heavy heart that this new crisis wasn't merely about the project. It threatened every sinew of loyalty, every thread of the intimate tapestry we had spent years weaving. Maggie stepped in, her voice steadier. What if you reach out to him just to hear what he has to say? Her suggestion cut through the tension, bringing a flicker of hope and hesitation. I don't want to, Noah said faintly, but it was mixed with a quiet resolve. But I need to know what he wants. The thought of an impending reunion evoked a whirlwind of emotions within me, anger, sadness, and an unexpected sense of loss. Maybe the shadows of our lives were poised to creep back into our present, tainting the fragile stability we had spent years trying to cultivate. None of this matters if you don't focus on your project, Bella reminded, her eyes sharp as she tried to redirect the tension back to what we had come to resolve. Right. We can deal with that later. I grasped at her words, trying to pull us back down from the precipice of choice we were teetering upon. Yet, the chaos felt overwhelming. The teacher stood awkwardly at the edge of the studio, observing the emotional whirlwind we were caught in. It might not be a bad idea to take a short break. Maybe each of you needs time to think. His voice cut through the fray, offering a fragile lifeline we desperately needed. Noah, I said, stepping closer, my voice softer now. If you feel you need to talk to him, I won't stop you, but please, think it through. Know that you don't have to do this alone. He nodded, uncertainty still clouding his features. As I glanced around the room, the fragments of Noah's project lay scattered, just like the pieces of our lives, both beautiful and broken. Just then, the vibrations of my phone interrupted the stillness. It was a text from an unknown number, and my heart raced as I opened it. The words on the screen snagged in my throat, an unexpected thunderclap of realization crashing through me. Your son is in danger. Don't trust anyone, including him. Terror gripped me, tightening around my chest until I could barely breathe. A frost chilled the air, darker than the storm that loomed brewing inside our hearts. The world seemed to falter for a moment as my mind spiraled into a cacophony of unanswered questions. Who could have sent this? What danger was Noah really in? The thought of impending doom felt suffocating, casting shadows over the fragile light of hope we had clung to. And as I looked at Noah, Bella, and Maggie, their faces painted with confusion, fear, and uncertainty, a single, uncontrollable thought surged through me, igniting a fire within the depths of my being. We were being pulled into a deeper storm, one laden with secrets and heartache that had yet to fully unfold. I would not let them go through this alone, yet the way forward seemed more treacherous with every breath. Mom, what's wrong? Noah asked, his eyes searching mine, as I tried to process the weight of the message and its implications. I took a shaky breath, but the words felt lodged in my throat, tangled with the reality of what we were about to face. We were one revelation away from everything adjusting into a new, unimaginable direction, and just as I demanded the courage to speak, uncertainty loomed larger than ever before, enveloping us in its chilling embrace. As the dread thickened in the air, a suffocating silence settled over the room. My fingers, still curled around my phone, trembled not just with fear but also with an overwhelming sense of urgency. The warning flashed repeatedly in my mind, its implications spiraling into every corner of my thoughts. Who sent this message? What did they know? Was Noah truly in danger? Mom? You look like you've seen a ghost, Noah said, the worry creeping into the corners of his voice. It twisted my heart, knowing that his innocence was at stake, and my protective instincts flared up like a wildfire. Nothing, sweetie. Just something came through that wasn't meant for us, I lied, my voice wavering. I had to shield him from the storm brewing behind the surface, shield him from the paranoia and the haunting fear that had taken root deep within me. But how could I shield him when the real danger might come from his very own father? Are you sure? Noah's brow furrowed, a depth of concern radiating from his blue eyes that mirrored mine. He was searching for the truth behind my facade, begging for assurance. Absolutely, I replied, forcing a smile to my lips that felt foreign and brittle. Why don't we focus back on your project? Noah tried to nod, but I saw the way his eyes flicked uncertainly towards the phone in my hand. The fragility of the moment broke me. But we should keep an eye out, right? There's still a chance, thanks, Bella, I interrupted, redirecting our conversation to the collaborative energy we all had once shared. We can dive into your sketches again. Let's remember what's important here. We each took a seat, the art studio momentarily buzzing back to life, but my mind raced. I had to make a plan, one that would include not only Noah but also the girls. If there was truly a threat, we'd face it together. And yet, the heaviness that settled on my shoulders was a reminder that storms like this do not just pass quietly. They churn through lives, ripping through relationships with reckless abandon. Can we talk about the colors again? Maggie asked, her voice cutting through my spiraling thoughts. Like, for the main piece? I still think the blue might drown it out, I nodded absently, trying to engage while the incessant beating of my heart drowned out my focus. They were so earnest in their pursuit of their art, still believing in possibilities, whirling colors, and unbridled imagination. It made me wish I could crawl into their minds, feel their lightness and freedom, if only for a moment. As the discussions continued around me, I caught myself watching Noah. I noticed how he'd bite his lip in concentration, how the light would catch in his hair when he'd look away, completely lost in thought. He was poised to take on the world, yet that drawn line between him and the past was blurring under the weight of our family history. His father was the black cloud above everything that blossomed here, and now it felt like that cloud had returned to unleash its fury. The hours shifted into moments that felt gut-wrenching and hopeful as we painted. The project morphed from a record of the present to a clash of dark and light, mirroring the storm inside each of us. I caught the quick, furtive glances exchanged between Bella and Maggie. They could sense the shadows creeping back into our lives. As we gathered to review what we'd accomplished, my phone buzzed again. This time it was an unsaved number, not entirely unfamiliar. My breath caught in my throat as I opened it, revealing a simple message: meet me at the park tomorrow. I have news. A chill slipped through me, colder than before. Whoever this was had knowledge that could unravel everything. What's up, Mom? Noah asked, eyeing my closed lips and tense shoulders. Just a work thing, I lied again, every shred of courage fighting to bubble up and push the truth forward, but fear stilled my words. Let's keep this in focus. Your project needs us. He nodded, though doubt flickered across his features like a quicksilver flash. It became all too clear, they all sensed the tremors beneath my surface. Our creativity bled into one another, swirls of color bathed the walls of the studio, the energy swelled, drawing me in like a moth to a flame. Yet I felt tethered to an anchor that threatened to pull me down. Just as I thought we might avoid the darkness, laughter broke out, and I saw them nervously exchanging glances. Their whispers were laced with concern. Where was I fearful of heading? "Mom, is something happening?" Maggie finally asked, her voice steady amidst the colorful chaos, stealing my attention away from my turbulent thoughts. "Nothing we can't handle," I replied with a forced brightness. But another part of me clenched tightly, knowing the truth of the storm we unwittingly exposed ourselves to. "But we're family," Bella interjected, her youthful conviction like light filtering through storm clouds. "You should tell us. We want to be here. A family should face things together." "We're not kids anymore," Maggie added, her sincerity striking deeper chords of guilt within me. I swallowed hard, wishing for bravery that felt inaccessible, not wanting to mar their vibrant spirit with this looming shadow. But the weight of their looks reinforced a growing truth: I couldn't shield them forever. And soon, they would have to confront the very past I sought to keep at bay. "All right," I began, voice trembling. "But just know whatever we find ourselves facing, we need to hold tight. You have each other, and we will stand together." Tension twisted the air. Just as I prepared to reveal all that I kept concealed, the studio door swung open, and the school principal stepped inside. Their expression, a mixture of concern and dread, pulled us all back and cloaked the room in quiet uncertainty. "Is everything all right?" they asked, concern shadowing the edges of the room, as eyes widened in anticipation. My heart raced as I recognized another unfolding layer of chaos. It was yet one more echo, pushing all of us closer to the abyss of revelations that threatened to tear every thread we had woven apart. And just like that, clarity split apart like fine glass shattering in slow motion. I realized that the very truth I sought to protect could also be the key to unearthing the salvation we all needed. But as the principal shared their heavy tidings, I stole another glance at Noah, and in that fleeting moment, I feared for the boy who had unwittingly inherited the darkness of his lineage. It was then that I knew our battle was only just beginning. I stood at the threshold of my children's world, my heart racing at the unfolding chaos around us. The principal's presence loomed heavy in the art studio, each concerned look from my children tightening the knot in my chest. "We have a serious matter to discuss regarding Noah's project," the principal began, their voice steady but edged with something akin to panic. I could feel the unease ripple through the room, a palpable tension rising like steam. "What about it?" I asked, knowing that whatever came next would tip the scales further in our family's carefully balanced dynamics. "There was an incident involving the artwork, namely, some accusations were made about the materials used," they said, glancing at Noah. "It's important we address the concerns directly, as some parents have expressed deep concerns. You might be facing disciplinary action, Noah." The words hung heavy in the air, an iron anchor to my son's spirit. In that moment, I saw the fire behind his eyes retract, the light dimming into the shadows of confusion and worry. The tight knot in my stomach twisted tighter. I longed to shield him from every bit of scrutiny, every doubt agonizingly swirling through his mind. My instincts to protect swelled within me. Didn't he have enough to carry? As tears stung at the corners of my eyes, my heart ached for him, longing to dissipate the darkness gathering. "Noah, this is just a misunderstanding," I said, forcing my voice to steady against the trembling undercurrents in my chest. "We can fight this together. You didn't do anything wrong." He looked at me, a mix of disbelief and defiance flickering across his face. "But it feels wrong, Mom. What if they think I'm just a fraud?" "No," Maggie interjected, her voice fierce. "You are not what they say. You are better than that." The principal's gaze softened at her support, yet the gravity of the situation lingered like an uninvited guest. "I understand your passion, Noah, but this matter involves delicate details. We have to tread carefully." "Careful? What does that even mean?" Noah shot back, his voice rising. "You can't keep hiding behind the rules and expect me to feel anything other than guilt for being who I am." The conversation spiraled, and as emotions flared, the delicate fabric of our dialogue began to unravel. I grasped for words, the chaotic energy around us amplifying the tension I sought to dispel. Listen, everyone, I interjected. This isn't going to solve anything if we don't speak from our hearts. We can't let this break us. But we all have to listen and be brave now, more than ever. The silence enveloped the room, a collective inhale grounding us amid the storm of worries. My eyes journeyed to each face, my family standing at Sia's edge before a tumultuous wave approaching. I caught Bella's gaze, softened with empathy, and I realized we were all on the precipice of something monumental, both a curse and a blessing. I think we should hear him out, Maggie said, uncertain yet resolute. If we start pushing back against the tide without understanding all the facts, we're only inviting chaos. As I watched her bravely step forward, I seized on that flicker of lightness amidst the shadows of uncertainty. Maggie's right, I encouraged, returning my focus to Noah, whose eyes shot between us all, still uncertain and raw before the growing tension that enveloped him. I want to know what's really going on, he finally said, hesitant yet willing to lean into the vulnerability of the moment. But we can't do that if we're living in the shadows of fear. At that instant, the principal nodded, drawing the deep breath settling the air's weight. If we want closure on this matter, we need to sit down together, your family and I. We need to talk this through. But you must promise to be honest, Noah. I will, he promised, his voice quieter now, but the resolve was still present. The three of us, Maggie, Bella, and I, stood in solidarity as they patiently exchanged piercing glances filled with unspoken words. It was an invitation into an open forum, a chance for us to process the whirlwind of emotions swirling beneath the surface. Let us take this one step at a time, I soothed, placing a hand on Noah's shoulder, bracing myself against the inevitable turbulence. Together, we will face whatever storm comes at us. Yet in the deep recesses of my heart, I harbored a secret dread, the morass of tangled family histories, the lurking pasts of betrayal, and the haunting implications of Noah's father's reemergence, which I feared would rip through us like a jagged cliff. And just as the shadows loomed darkly overhead, a glimmer of courage sparked within me. The principal cleared their throat again, setting the stage for gravity. I believe in your family's strength. Whatever you decide, I'll respect that. Let us use the openness we have right now to navigate this together. When the meeting came to a close, I stole a moment alone with Noah, moving to stand beside him. You've got this, my son. I believe in you, I whispered, the words slicing through the ache that had gripped my throat. And whatever happens, know that I am here with you. We are here. His expression softened, the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes morphing into determination. As our fingers intertwined, I understood that fear ebbed in the face of unity, however fractured our journey may be. And I felt their spirits, my children's, rising with the warmth of resilience. When we stepped out of the studio into the sunlight, my heart swelled with a realization I didn't need to hide from anymore. I could either succumb to the storms pounding against us or choose to embrace this new beginning, one threaded with complexity and heartbreak. We'll stand together, I whispered, and they seemed to feel it without needing to speak the unsaid. The daunting path before us would mirror the entangled brushstrokes of Noah's piece, a portrayal of chaos and beauty mixed into a single canvas. And as I glanced back into the school behind us, that felt to me like a chapter closing. We were on the cusp of forging something new and bold, and I had never been more terrified of the uncertainties lurking beyond, yet more committed than ever to face them as a united front. As we left the institution behind, I marked the beginning of a relentless journey, one filled with secrets, revelations, and the indelible hope of healing entwined with love. And though every fiber of my being trembled with apprehension, I swore to brave the storm, along with my children, determined to discover the strength we would glean through the tangled mess of our broken pasts, transcending mere survival to embrace a profound connection that had the power to heal. As we stepped back into the world, the shades of night began to lift before us, revealing a horizon stitched together by the threads of our shared histories, and love emerged at the edge, a powerful anchor that could endure even the fiercest of storms. Together, I whispered anew, and that singular word carried me forward as we embraced whatever came next, committed to unearthing ourselves anew. Love, as it turned out, could be the most unexpected balm for every wound, and today, and every day that followed, standing together amidst our storm would guide us toward the light.